Hey y'all, it's Chris with Rockin Farm, and I've been telling y'all that we've been pretty busy lately, and that's actually made video shooting very difficult. But now I can walk around and talk about the projects after they're done. Right now I'm standing out here in this pasture area that is very quickly becoming our fruit orchard, and this is where we've been doing a lot of work lately. So for us personally in our orchard, we are planting a mixed fruit orchard and working towards something that many people call a food forest. We're getting the trees in the ground early, and then we'll work towards developing understories and bushes and ground cover layers and stuff like that. We're just kind of letting it develop as we have the money and putting in the things that we have the most access to. So I'm hoping that someday what you see behind me is going to look a lot more like what you would see if you were walking around in a mixed wood forest, except that everything here will grow some kind of food. Before we jump into this too much further, y'all, I need y'all to do me a favor. We are actually getting very close to 1,000 subscribers, so if you're not already subscribed, I need you to hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and if you have some time, go check out the website, rockin8farm.com. So first I'm going to tell you what we've done, what we've accomplished. Then I'm going to take around and actually show you the individual plants that we have in our mixed fruit orchard. And then I want to give you a little bit of an explanation about why this is the route that we chose to go. So I do have a few fruiting shrubs in the ground. That's not necessarily really what we're talking about today. I have some elderberry shrubs, and then I also have some Hansen's bush cherry shrubs. But primarily what I've got out here right now is trees. And at the beginning of this year, we started out the year with 14 trees in the ground. Some of them had been in the ground about 2 full years by that point. We did lose 2 trees in the big freeze that we had down here in Texas in February. So our orchard stood at 12 trees. Now, they always say the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago. So that's especially true when it comes to fruit trees. So we've just been building it up as quickly as we could, but we had to do it as money allowed or as time allowed. And it usually ended up centering around my father-in-law and brother-in-law's trip to see us here in Texas. They come once a year from Arizona. They come for plant trade shows, but while they're here, they meet up with some of their Texas suppliers and vendors to take a look at their stock and have conversations for the upcoming year, etc. And a lot of times they would bring us home a little present, some kind of fruit tree. So the 14 trees that I had in the ground, they were all gifts from my father-in-law and my brother-in-law. And it was, I mean, no better way to a homesteader farmer's heart than, free trees, right? So amazing gifts. This year we had the opportunity to tag along with them on their little venture out to some of these tree nurseries, and my wife and I just went a little crazy, and we ended up bringing home 18 more trees to add to our orchard. So we had 14, we lost 2, we were down to 12, but we've added 18, so now we're up to 30 trees in our mixed fruit orchard. What types of fruits and what types of trees are we planting? Well, let's take a look. We have Golden Delicious Apple. We have Molly's Delicious Apple. We have the Moore Park Apricot and the Early Golden Apricot. We have 3 different varieties of peaches, including Tropic Snow, Texas Star, and the Florida Prince. We only have 1 nectarine variety, that's the Panamint nectarine. We do have 2 trees, but just the 1 variety. We have 2 different varieties of plums, including the Methley plum, and the next one over is the Santa Rosa plum. And the 3rd tree in this particular line is actually a plum cot, which is a hybrid cross between a plum and an apricot. 3 different varieties of pears. This is the Moonglow, this one is the Orient, and this one is your Kiefer pear. And we've got 2 of each of those as well. And the other thing we added this year was persimmons. This is the Hachia persimmon, and this is the Fuyuhiro persimmon. Now we do have some more things that we need to add. For example, like the reason that we have Golden Delicious apples and Molly's Delicious apples is because Golden Delicious are self-pollinating, Molly's Delicious are not. So they need a pollinator tree, which is why we have the Golden Delicious. So the Golden Delicious help the Molly's Delicious have apples, and then the Golden Delicious do better when they have a pollinator, even though they're self-pollinating. So that's why it's important for us to have different kinds of trees. We're going to need to add to our persimmons. These, you know, we have two of the Asian style persimmons here. I'm probably going to add a third variety of Asian persimmon. And then I also want to get some American persimmons. They do grow naturally in this area. I haven't found any on my property yet. The big reason that I need to add more persimmons is because the Fuyuhiro is a self-pollinating persimmon. It'll do fine on its own, but it can also be pretty frost sensitive, and I'm just not 100% sure if it's going to make it here. The Hachiya persimmon, it doesn't do real well without a pollinator, but the Fuyuhiro isn't the best pollinator for it. So I really need to bring in a third variety at least to have more pollination between that tree and the Hachiya persimmons. And then, like I said, I want to bring in that American persimmon because I think it's going to do the best here since it grows here native anyhow. As I already mentioned, I want to add another nectarine variety. Again, it helps with cross-pollination. They usually fruit better when they have a tree that is same type of fruit but a different type of tree. So I want to bring in another nectarine. The only plum that I want to bring in another plum, and that's going to be the Mexican plum. Again, grows here naturally. We do actually have Mexican plum trees around our property. I've seen them bloom, but they don't tend to ever really get fruit. I personally think that is because a Mexican plum living in the wild obviously isn't getting, you know, any kind of a nutrient boost through like organic fertilizer sticks. It's not getting watered twice a week through the summer. So they grow well, but they don't fruit well because they have to put their energy into survival, not into fruit. But if I can get a few of those native to the area Mexican plums growing out here in my orchard where they have drip irrigation to them and we come through a couple times a year and fertilize, I think they're going to do really well and they're going to give us some really good fruit. I'm definitely looking forward to those methleys though, because y'all, you have not had a good plum until you've had a methley plum. They are so tasty. There are some other plants, or other trees I should say, that we want to plant, but some of those we're going to end up growing in high tunnel hothouses once we get those installed. For example, avocados and bananas both grow really, really well here in Central Texas, but they don't fruit really, really well here in Central Texas. It gets too cold for them to fruit, but the trees do great. We have some beautiful avocado trees and gorgeous banana trees just down on my kids' high school campus, but the bananas only get about that big because it just kind of gets too cold here for them to fruit, even though the tree does well. I'm hoping the high tunnels will solve that. And so as far as out here in the actual orchard goes, I already told you we want to add another plum variety, add another persimmon variety, add another nectarine variety. There's a couple of other apple varieties that I'd really like to get in. I'd like to make a run at like some Arkansas Blacks or some Granny Smiths, maybe some of the small sweet Japanese style apples. And then I definitely want to bring some nut trees in, but we're most likely going to put the nut trees out along the edge, you know, use them as a barrier between us and the road because they get so big and so tall. So let's just talk real quick about the different ways that you can do an orchard and why we chose to do it this way. We primarily have what I would like to call a homestead orchard. If we wanted to make a ton of money off of an orchard, then we would probably come in, plant 2 different varieties of apples or 2 different varieties of peach and have hundreds of each of those trees and then just go to town. As a homesteader, I don't feel that that's smart, because what if it's a bad year for apples? Now I have absolutely no product to sell at all, and I have no product to eat here at my house. So part of the reason that we have a mixed orchard is because if it's a bad year for peaches, maybe it's a good year for apples. Or if it's a bad year for the nectarines and plums, maybe it's a great year for the persimmons. We'll always have something that we can eat, something that we can and preserve, something that we can sell, even if it's a bad year for a specific type of fruit. My thought process was basically, as a permaculturist, you know, I really don't like the idea of monocropping and putting in, you know, 400 acres of corn and not having any diversity in the plant. So why would I monocrop my orchard and just have one fruit variety? I want to have every fruit variety out here that I can think of and that will grow here. Like, for example, cherries. The sweet cherries don't do great in the south. The stringent, the tart cherries do really good down here. But we don't do a ton of pies and that kind of stuff. Like, if I'm going to eat cherries, I just want to eat the cherries. So I don't know if we'll go the cherry route or not. We'll give it a go, because there's only one way to find out if some of those sweeter varieties are going to grow here, and that's to get them in the ground. And the other reason that we went with this, this huge diversity of trees is because someday we would like to have basically a you-pick fruit operation here. So rather than me spending all of my time and energy harvesting all of this fruit off of all of these trees, I can allow people to come in, give them a basket and say like, okay, this is the $10 basket size, this is the $20 basket, this is the $50 basket. Go be free and fill it up. And they can walk around to the different varieties of trees and pick the fruit for themselves to take home. You pick peaches is a very big thing over in Fredericksburg, Texas, but that's primarily what they grow over there is peaches. So you go in, you pick 5 or 6 peaches, because how many are going to keep in your fridge and for how long, and you go home. Well, here somebody could come over, they can pick 5 or 6 peaches, 5 or 6 apples, 5 or 6 pears, and, kind of give themselves a good mix, and then just get through all that fruit over a couple of week period, eating it out of their fridge. So that's another reason that we do this the way that we do this, is to someday give our customers a big variety. And last, we do it this way so we can lessen our need to go to the grocery store. I personally don't eat a lot of fruit, just because having been diagnosed with diabetes, I've worked really hard to get my sugars down. Although if I'm going to have sugar, some good natural sugar like fruit is the way I would definitely go. But the kids all love fruit, the wife loves fruit, the animals love fruit. So I want to make sure that I don't have to buy apple butter or apple jelly or peach jelly or peach jam, or apples or peaches or pears. Like, I don't want to have to buy the fruit or the fruit byproducts at the store anymore. If we're going to make a peach pie, it's going to be because we're using the peaches off of our trees. And guess what? We just won't make a peach pie in January. We will eat the fruit seasonally. And that's kind of my goal for myself when it comes to the fruit too, is that I'm really trying to get myself on what I want to call, everybody, the keto, and let's throw all these, I call it like an indigenous diet. When Native Americans or, Native South Americans, Native Alaskans, during a time when they were undisturbed by Europeans, they kind of followed the herds. They ate a very high fat, high protein diet almost all year long. And then they would just eat the fruit when it was seasonally available. And that was kind of intentionally to put on 10 or 15 pounds to get them through a lean winter. So I'm really trying to get myself to a place where we live off of our pork and our chicken, and someday hopefully our beef, but then I've got the fruit seasonally to just enjoy for a period of time, and not get myself to a place where, oh, I have to eat peaches every single day all year long. No, I'll eat a peach or two when they're available. So getting a whole lot of trees in the ground is what we've been up to. Our orchard is growing very rapidly. We made sure we got the biggest trees we could find in that gallon size. They were, 7-gallon trees or something like that. So we looked for big diameters in the trunks, because we knew that those were a little further along and probably really needing to be sized up into the next bucket. So that's what we made sure we grabbed. It's coming along nicely. We're not done yet. I still got to get all these trees staked, and right now I've kind of got the tree bugs, so I wouldn't be shocked if I don't go pick up some more trees eventually and start filling in some gaps on the things that I'm missing. But this is just one more example of what we've been up to and why we've been so busy. This is the Rockin fruit orchard, and I hope you all enjoyed the little tour of it. This has been Chris with Rockin Farm. Until I see y'all again, be happy and live healthy.